Welcome to Love Talk. I'm Gregory Morgan. Thanks for joining me. If you're a human being, you are in a relationship. You're in multiple relationships. And it's in the area of human relationships that we both learn the most, that we have the opportunity to grow, overcome our own inner weaknesses, our own failures, to be loving and compassionate, where we can actually grow and become more sophisticated, refined, developed, compassionate, and loving human beings. Our relationships offer us many opportunities to grow and overcome those challenges that seem to hold us back or keep us stuck in life. If you're stuck in a relationship, for some people, stuck means I love him or her, but we don't seem to be going anywhere. You can't seem to get past that dating stage into a stage called engaging or marriage, and that's someplace that you'd like to go. Or maybe you're married. You're stuck just being together in the same house, but all of the love and romance has gone out of your relationships. Just putting up with each other and bad mood that seems to overwhelm the household. And that's another way of being stuck in a relationship. Perhaps you're stuck in your relationships with your children or with your parents, in which not able to get from them what it is that you need for yourself, and you're not able to give to them the things that you would like to give to either your parents or to your children. So by being stuck, I mean that you're not moving forward. We are expanding and becoming more and more of all that we are meant to be, all of our potential. Potential is a nice thing to have, but it's not a nice thing to die with. You don't want to have written on your tombstone, died with all of their potential intact. No, you don't want that. You want to use up your potential. You want to burn up your potential. You want to go full out to the fullest extent of your potential, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, psychologically. You want to explore the limits of what it is to be a human being, to be the most powerful, loving, compassionate, insightful, wise, generous human being that you could possibly be, as well as, why not, the most beautiful and wealthy and successful, the most contributing human being that you could possibly be, that makes a difference in the world, and use up whatever potential you have. And a lot of you have a lot of potential that you don't even know you have, and you will never find it out unless you push the limits of what is known. I'm always going to be pushing you to push yourself and expand yourself beyond whatever limitations you have. So I'm going to go ahead and take this call. Hello, this is Gregory. You are live on the air with Love Talk.
I am in a relationship. I'm 40 years old. My fiance is 47 years old. We both have a second marriage.
Okay.
So I have a 10-year-old daughter, and we don't have any kids. It's been 3 years that we've been together, and we are. He's a very kind and very nice person. And then we lived together for almost a year now. I don't have that much problem with him. The most problem that I have, and it's always bothering me, that I have to keep talking to him and remind him about the time managing, I can say. Like, for example, he is a very busy person. He has an office job, and he has a lot of business to taking care of it. And he don't even look at his watch and see, it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, let me go home and spend some time with them. Mm-hmm. But if I remind him that, the time is 7 o'clock, he just jumps and he comes and, we spend very good time together.
You're asking me if it's okay that you manage his time.
I think it's okay to manage the time, but
no.
I am pushing him to come home, but...
Are you asking me, or are you telling me?
I'm asking you. No, I'm asking.
I know what you think. Do you want to know what I think?
What do you think?
I think that a woman should never manage a man.
Okay, but if I don't manage, he's going to be in his office until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And then by the time at 11 o'clock, he says, I didn't even know it's 11 o'clock. And really... Sometimes 7 o'clock, I go to his office and he's still in his computer doing the stuff that... Do
you want to just tell me about why you want to keep doing the way you're doing it, that you're complaining about? Because that's what...
I want to spend time with you.
Yeah, well, I know, but here's the thing. You're doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, which is the definition of insanity. Besides which, when I tell you that you ought not to do that, and you called and asked me what I thought, so I told you, you immediately jumped in and started telling me all the reasons, all of your good reasons, why you should keep doing what you're doing. So really, I don't understand the purpose of the talk, but I do understand why he might want to avoid coming home. I'm saying that in a joke, but men don't like to be managed, and they don't like to have their ideas cast aside.
That's right.
So if you want to be a woman that he can't wait to get home to, managing is a masculine activity, okay? Even when a mother is managing her children, that is a masculine activity.
That's true.
You are interfering or interceding, right? You're stepping into the flow of energy of somebody else and giving direction, saying this is how it needs to go now. Now you may say that with kisses and hugs and candy and ribbons on top, but you're basically being a man and saying, I want you to do this now. It's not very attractive. For a masculine man, it's not attractive. Think of a magnet, a positive and a negative, right?
Yes.
You put two positives together, what happens?
It's not going to
They push apart. No, it's not only that they don't pull together, they literally push each other apart. They repel. So a masculine is a positive, if you will, energy, positive energy. It's pointing outwards towards the world, yes?
Yes.
It's saying there's all this world out there and I am going to penetrate it and make my point. That's a masculine activity. Nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. Thank God that there's masculine men and masculine women. That's great. But you be that way with a masculine man, he will be repelled.
Correct.
He'll push back from that because he has no choice but to do one of two things. He either pushes back, in other words, I'll say three things. He pulls away from, to avoid, which is what most men do. If they're honorable, they don't want to engage in a battle with a woman. That's the second choice. Push back. You push towards him, he pushes back. That's called a battle. That's fighting, and that's dishonorable for a man to fight with a woman. That we don't feel good about it. Men don't feel good about fighting with women. Men don't mind fighting with other men, but fighting with women that we want to love and cherish and take care of and support, we don't feel good about that. So we usually will pull back and just do the third option, which is called submit. Submit, the word sub means below, and the word mit means to put below. So to submit means to put oneself below the masculine energy and say, okay, you be the masculine and I will submit to your wishes. I will be the receptive one, the feminine one, and I will receive your masculine direction. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense for me.
So, that's all of the reasons why I don't think a woman should manage a man. However, next thing, I think it's important to have agreements.
Okay.
I think it's important to have agreements and to keep those agreements. Holding someone accountable to their agreement is different than managing them. Do you understand the difference?
I understand completely.
All right. So then if you had an agreement called from him and you saying, let's agree to always be home by 7, do you agree to that? Yes. If there's a yes, but, if there's anything but a 100% yes, it's not a yes, by the way. I'm teaching you how to listen. Yes, but, or yes, maybe, or any of that, there's either yes or no. Yes or humma is not yes. It's yes, it's a counteroffer. When somebody makes a request, if they say, I would like for you to be home at 7, I request that you be home at 7 when I get home, or that you come home at 7, or whatever your request is, he has 3 choices. One is to say yes. Yes, okay, I agree. No, I do not agree, and I won't do it. Or counteroffer, I will do it as often as I can. However, some days there may be days when I can't, and I will call you well in advance to let you know that what time I will be home. And if I say I'll be home not at 7 but at 8, I'll come home at 8. That would be a clear agreement. I know that most people don't manage their lives. Can you see how having a structure of agreements will give you some space in your life? If you're going to have a marriage, there's agreements about time. One of them might be, I will be there when I say I will be there. If I see that I'm going to be late, I will let you know as soon as possible that I'm not going to be there, and I will make a new promise about when I will. So in other words, I call you at 6:30 and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to make it at 7, but I'll be home by 8 or 9, or tonight I'm just forget it. I'm not coming home until 10 o'clock because I got a lot of work to do. Whatever works for you in your relationship. I have some friends, every Friday night is date night. They go to dinner, they go to a movie, they spend time together. They don't accept any other invitations. It's their date night.
That's nice.
Well, sometimes they accept other invitations, but they let you know, this is our date night, so we're on a date tonight when we come to see you.
But believe me, when he comes home, he can't wait to get home. He can't wait to be home, and we spend
Good
time.
He's an adult man. He's 47. He needs to manage his own time responsibly. Most men don't like being managed by their wife.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, it's called nagging. They'll put up with it because they love you, but they don't like it, and they complain about it to the other men.
I know he doesn't like it when I called him and said, oh, it's time to come home.
Can I offer you a feminine way of communicating? I'm going to take for granted that your husband cares about you and loves you and wants you to be happy and feel good. Would that be a safe assumption?
Yes, it is.
Given that, if you tell your husband how you feel and not what you think or how you think he ought to be, that would be called management or nagging, but you simply let him know how you feel. Honestly, without guilt, just for example, I feel so happy when I come home and you come home right after that. I love the time we spend together. I really look forward to it. It makes me really happy. Would you please be here when I get here, or come home at the time you said you would? Because it makes me feel really happy. And when you don't, I feel sad, I feel rejected, I feel like you don't care about me. Whatever it is that you feel, just tell the truth. Don't make up stuff, but just tell the truth about how you feel. A masculine man will naturally want to make you feel better.
That's true.
It's natural. And in that way, you leave the ball in his court, you see?
Yes.
You tell him how you feel. You can make a request and say, would you take care of my feelings? But will you be here? I feel good when you're here. I feel bad when you're not. Will you do your best to be here? And then just close your mouth. Don't talk. Don't give directions. Nothing. Just listen. Just allow him to either make a promise or not. Don't get in a competition with him about whose idea is going to win. Just allow him to express what he thinks, what he wants, what he can do and can't do. If he can promise to be there, then let him make that promise. A promise, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, a promise that is solicited is not a promise. It's a manipulation. A lot of people use language like, you have to promise me that X, right? That's not a promise. Or somebody will say something and then they'll say, promise, and the person will say, okay, I promise. That's not a promise either. That's a solicitation. That's somebody getting rid of you by giving you what you want, but they didn't make a promise. A promise always comes from one's own heart. I promise. You hear the difference?
Yes.
Yeah, if a promise doesn't come from a person, if you have to elicit the promise, in other words, talk them into it, that it's not a promise. In the back of their mind, they're like, you talked me into it. I didn't really promise. So it's hard to hold somebody accountable to a promise that has been solicited. But when somebody promises something from their own heart, I promise I will do everything I can to be there on time, or I'll let you know, because I want you to feel good and be happy. And I enjoy the time that we spend together also. If he says something like that comes from his heart, then you can remind him of that sometime if he ever was not there or didn't keep that promise. Say, you remember, didn't you promise me that you would do this? That's called holding accountable, not managing. Do you see the difference?
Yes, I can.
Big difference. Holding accountable, I like it when my wife holds me accountable. I mean, sometimes I don't want to do something, but when she reminds me that I said I wanted to do this, remember you said you wanted to, whatever, lose weight or do this or do that, or I go, oh yeah, thanks. I appreciate being held accountable, but I don't like being told what to do.
Nobody likes it.
Yeah.
So much. That was a very good comment. I will see how it works if I do like that.
Great. It's just a difference in a way of communicating. And by the way, you guys are engaged for 3 years. A single woman getting married after the age of 40 declines rapidly. If you were single and out dating,
yes,
the chances of you meeting somebody and marrying them statistically start to decline after 40. That's what I'm trying to support you in having what it is that you said you wanted, which is to be married.
Yes, thank you so
Right?
much. Yes, I get that. I know.
Yeah.
It's not my way that we are doing it. So, yeah, I think I am very safe and supported from that part.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much, Mr.
Thanks for your call.
Gregory.
Yep. Thanks for calling. Thanks for watching. It is the point of this show to expand the possibilities that they have in their life. I believe that it's the one with the most choices who actually win in the battle for overcoming one's weaknesses and the resistance in one's life and expanding into the fullness of who you really are, who you were meant to be, who you have the possibility of being, not only for yourself, but for yourself first. Yourself first. This has been the hardest lesson that I've had to learn, that I find in teaching others. People tend to swing either one side of the pendulum spectrum or the other. On the one side, completely egotistical, like only for themselves and their own happiness or their own self-expression or their own wealth or safety or well-being, which is a very low level value system, is the nicest way that I can say that. It's also truthful. It is a value system in which one values their own survival, they value their own well-being, which is a good thing, and I think that you should always have that value. However, they value that over the well-being and happiness of others. Now, that is a very primitive state in which, that comes from a inner thought, and it may come from an outer reality. It comes from the inner thought or the outer reality of a lack of resources. What do I mean by a lack of resources? Not enough food, clothing, shelter, money, not enough love, not enough attention, not enough safety. So there's a number of resources that human beings absolutely need on an animal level. They need these things. You need and I need to be, to maintain our body at a certain temperature. Otherwise, you either freeze to death or die of suffocation. We need to breathe clean air. Otherwise, you will die from that. You need to eat good food. You need to have water. You need to have rest. You need to have a number of things just to stay alive. Okay? So, given that, people who are concerned with only that are concerned only with the animal level of humanity, and so sacrificing the happiness and well-being and the prosperity of others in order to get those necessities, those animal necessities for oneself, is understandable. Doesn't make you a bad person, it just makes you more inclined towards an animalistic type of behavior. And when it comes to the human level, that includes happiness, fulfillment, self-expression, that's just not going to be available to you. Most of the people that are watching this show are not going to be on that level, that value level that I'm calling just the basic animal instinct of I value my well-being and happiness over that of all others. And if you are watching this show, then please listen up, because there are many value levels, and I've talked about them in the past, but there's only a few that actually, the higher levels of value in which you actually begin to experience ongoing happiness and well-being. That ongoing happiness and well-being has very little to do with your actual state of what I will call liberty. I've talked about it in the show in the past, the distinction between liberty and freedom. Freedom has to do with your outside circumstances. It is circumstantial. Somebody could take away your freedom. You could lose your freedom. You could be confined into not your freedom, but your liberty. You could be confined and lose your liberty. No one can take away your freedom if you claim to be free in your own mind, in your own heart, if your thoughts are free, if your heart is free, if you are unrestricted in your loving and in your compassion and in your ability to rationalize normally, then you will be free. You will be free, and nobody can take that away from you. Okay? Freedom is a state of beingness. It is not just a state of mind, it is a state of beingness in one's heart. So it involves your physicalness. It involves your heart, your emotions, your psychology, those invisible parts of you that are quite real. And it involves your mentality, again, invisible but quite real. And when you are free from within, then nobody can take that away from you. Your liberty could be restricted. That was just sort of a side thing, and I want to get back to the values part of it. The very basic level of values is I only care about myself, and I don't care about anybody else. Most people are not there. That's a very basic animalistic point of view. Is also a very childish point of view. Children are like that. As infants, we are like that. We only want to keep breathing and eating and staying alive. It hasn't occurred to us that there's anybody else more important than ourselves, and that is something that develops later. And as it does, we begin to become concerned for others and become concerned for their happiness. We want them to be happy. We want them to feel good. When others feel good, we feel good. And so we want, as a child, for example, we want our mother to be happy. We see a smile on her face, we smile, we're happy. We see a frown on her face, we get afraid. Or we begin to shut down and shrink in. We do want others to be happy, and that may also be a survival mechanism. On the level of a child, it is. If it was the level of tribal leader or a family leader, you would want your family to be happy. If they weren't, you would feel that you were failing in some way, that your purpose somehow would be tied up with their happiness. Your sense of self-expression or fulfillment would be tied up with or bound with the happiness and well-being of others. And that's a sort of second or third level, if you will, of values. The first level being oneself, the second level being valuing one other. Then there's a group of others, usually your family, your first most closest family, your immediate family. Then there's a tribal or a community value system in which you value those of your community and you have shared values within that community or culture. For example, the Iranian community is, even though there's people in there that you like and don't like, people that you know and people that you don't know, people who have values that you don't necessarily agree with or like, and other people or lower values than you that you don't necessarily agree with them or like. However, you are protective of them and feel connected with them because they are your culture, your community. Now that's true in any culture, whether you're Iranian or Japanese or New Yorkers or any other cultural norm. So it is not just necessarily bloodlines, it's a shared value lines. You know, in the example of New York, for example, there's every race over there, and yet they, as New Yorkers, they feel like we have a shared value system called New York. You can really tell New Yorkers, if you've ever lived there and then moved away, you know a New Yorker as soon as you see one. And, I lived in New York for 8 years, and so I feel like I'm a New Yorker, right? And now that I'm here in California, when I meet a New Yorker, I'm always like, hey, homie, I feel connected to them like right away because there's some kind of a shared understanding of things that you get from living on the streets or living, and walking on the streets of New York. So that is a community or cultural value system. And then there's the value system of one's nationality. There's one's nationality. You could be an Iranian living in America, but when America goes to war with Iran or, argues with Iran, you feel some tension about that. Or when they make an agreement with Iran, as has recently happened, you may feel happy about that. Or you may have various emotions based on the fact that you are Iranian and American. That would cause a different type of cultural value than, say, for example, if you were a French American, you may not even care about that or pay any attention to it, or just a French person or a Spanish or whatever. So values are shared on a national level as well, and that gives you a certain way of behaving, a certain way of expressing, a certain way of finding a place amongst that in which you feel like you are contributing or not, in which you feel like you could cause that culture to prosper or not, and so forth. So when I'm speaking about happiness, when I'm speaking about fulfillment, when I'm speaking about full self-expression, what I want to point you towards is that the most certain way that I have found to be assured of ongoing happiness, well-being, and full self-expression is to participate in something that makes a difference with humanity itself, wanting for, working towards, driving towards, planning for, putting time, money, energy, and focus aside to work towards the fulfillment and full self-expression and well-being of the entire human race. There are people who are doing that. You may choose to do that. I choose to do that. That's what makes me happy. That's where I find my self-expression. But you should find your self-expression. There's not one that's better than another. There's where you're at. That's where you need to be. Wherever you're at, that's where your opportunity for self-expression is. If it expands beyond that at some point because you are filled, that's what I mean by full self-expression. If you express yourself fully into the value system that you are currently in, and that you're honest about that, you're honest about the value system that you're in, that you're not trying to play like something that you're not, that you're not pretending to be something because you go, oh, well, that value system's better than my value system. I should say that I'm in that value system when in fact you're not. Then it won't work anyhow. You'll just be doing another phony thing to try to make it in your value system. Wherever you are is the perfect place for you to be. So there is no better place than where you are for you to be. If you try to be someplace you're not and pretend, it won't work, and it'll only bring you more unhappiness, frustration, and disappointment. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a great vision and expand your horizons. I'm just saying don't pretend to be something you're not. It's inauthentic, and it won't bring you any happiness. It just doesn't work. That's all. So it's not that there's a better place, a more valuable place, or that you would have a greater value to the world or to society if you were in some other place than what you are. So I'm using the words level, but I don't mean to use them as a hierarchy. I'm simply saying that as you expand, fulfill yourself as a human being, you will find that your self-expression will expand naturally and on its own as you find more, better, different, inspiring ways to cause happiness and fulfillment in the lives of those around you. That is a very real human concern. Every human being is struggling, and it's an appropriate struggle to find more, better, different ways of contributing to others. If all you're doing is trying to make a living, you're just trying to get enough food, clothing, and shelter to protect yourself and have safety and make sure that you can eat, and that is a survival level of values. However, a shift happened for me a number of years ago when I was struggling to make enough money to just, pay my rent and do all that stuff as a young man. And I began to see that, first of all, I got very good at what I was doing, so I had to hire employees. And for the first part of it, I was only concerned about how I could make more money with those employees, you see. After a while, I began to notice that my employees' lives were getting better, that they were getting a better car, or that they were able to provide something for their family more than they could before because they work with me now. And I found that gave me such personal joy and satisfaction to see their lives growing that I took my focus off of making money. I literally just said, I'm not somebody who's out to make money. I'm somebody who provides livelihood for 12 different families. There's 12 families that are expanding and growing and getting the things they need out of my business activity. That became my joy and my satisfaction. And when I began to focus on the well-being and happiness of my employees and their families, I simply shifted my focus. Now, that was an inner decision, but it had an outer manifestation. And the manifestation was my employees worked very, very hard, and they brought a lot of love and integrity and honor to the job. They took on this company as if it were their own and made it be something great for themselves, something that they were proud of, something that they enjoyed doing. Now, all of this was just out of an inner shift in focus in me. I took my focus, my happiness didn't come from making money. My happiness came from watching them have something that they love to do that they became good at. Some of them became better at it than I currently was. I'm speaking of a construction company that I had years ago in which we did fine finish carpentry, and I was able to train carpenters to do carpentry work as good or better than I could, faster. And do you think that all of that resulted in me making more money? Yes. The money was more of a byproduct of where my focus was. I was focusing on happiness, well-being, more and expanding choices, making sure that the people around me, my culture, in other words, my tribe of carpenters, was happy, successful, and getting everything they needed to be so. And in doing so, they self-disciplined, and those who did not want to self-discipline simply filtered themselves out. They would go someplace else because we had very high standards. Our clients had very high standards, and I had very high standards, and so they would simply, if they couldn't meet those standards, it was okay. They went their way. And somebody else who wanted to play that game on a much higher level and expand and enjoy it would step up. What is it that you are up to that seems like you're struggling and that you have no choices, you're stuck, you have to work way too hard at it, the amount of satisfaction that you get from it nowhere near the work and the pain and the struggle that it causes you, then I propose that you shift your focus, because you could keep doing exactly the same thing. As I shifted the focus from what was making me unhappy, which was making money, working hard and worrying about money and trying to get money didn't bring me any happiness. No matter how much money I made, it was never enough, and it was just always a struggle. And so it seemed to me in that time that I was working very, very hard for not enough money, which would be the natural outcome, if you think about it, of focusing on making money. If you just focus on making money, it's never going to be enough because it won't bring you happiness. When I began to focus on the thing that actually did make me happy, which is seeing people prosper around me, seeing things grow, seeing people get better at their skills, have more possibilities and choices in their lives, then not only did my happiness expand, but my business expanded and my income expanded, and along with it, I expanded spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically as well, because I had more time, money, and energy to spend on myself and my own well-being. So I was able to go to the gym, meditate, take workshops and seminars, and expand my consciousness and awareness and educate myself. I eventually was able to leave that company altogether and start Embrace Growth with my wife, which was my dream in the first place, was to travel around the world, teach men and women about relationships and expanded consciousness and having more choices and freedom and happiness in life, and to do books and CDs and DVDs and work with wonderful, happy people like our staff at Embrace Growth, who is happy to be doing what they're doing. They want to contribute to your life. So we long ago took our focus off of, oh, how are we going to make some money? And what is a joy is to discover every day more inspiring and fulfilling ways of contributing to people. You have something that you are up to. There's something in your life that you came here to do. You didn't just sort of come here by accident. And some of you live your life that way. Yes, you did. Yes, you did choose to be here. And part of being here is forgetting that you did that. You agreed to be here for a reason, and there's something that you want. There's something that you're here to give. There's something that you're here to learn. It's as individual as it is. There's as many reasons for being here as there are human beings on the planet, yet it's no accident that you are here. And it's no accident that you're watching this show, hearing me say that. All of the circumstances, all of the beliefs or disbeliefs, all of your conflicts, all of your painful experiences and your pleasurable experiences have brought you to this moment in your life, to right now. Now, that's true for right now, but it's also true for a week from now or for 2 years ago. Every experience in your life brings you to the present moment that you're currently in. Right now, you're in a moment where I'm telling you, you didn't just accidentally get here. You came here for something, and that is that every human being wants to make a difference in the lives of others. That is our joy, our happiness, is our fulfillment. And if you are not participating actively in doing something that makes life better, and it doesn't matter what it is. But whatever it is that you are currently occupied at, if it is not something that you are doing to make a difference for others, then why are you giving your life to that? Why are you giving your life to something that makes no difference, to something that is causing you suffering? You owe it to yourself and to the rest of the world to be happy. You owe it to at least the people that know you. Do you think that they're not sick of seeing you being miserable? Do you think that people who know about your unhappiness, even though you may try to hide it, you think they don't know? If you're unsatisfied with your life, do you think that the people around you are unaware of that? Even if they're not consciously aware of it, we have powers of perception and comprehension that go beyond our conscious mind. We are aware of things that we choose to not be conscious of. We all have an inner voice. What I'm about to say is not just some kind of spiritual woo-woo. This is physics. Consciousness is not individual phenomenon. Awareness is not an individual phenomenon. It is a group phenomenon. We are aware of and conscious of a small, tiny little filtered portion of all of the knowable awareness and consciousness that is already out there existing and flooding, attempting to flood into your awareness. However, you couldn't handle all of that, you, me. We wouldn't be able to handle all of it at the same time. So there's a massive amount of filters that allow just a few bits of consciousness and awareness to come into our aware or awake everyday waking mind. The waking mind actually sleeps. It shuts off. It goes to bed at night and shuts down. The subconscious mind that is aware of all of this does not. It never sleeps. It's ongoing. When you shut down your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, or by sub I mean just below the level of consciousness or awareness, that mind continues and that's what they call dreams. And they call them dreams because for a very tiny few seconds of each night, you have the possibility of there being some leak over or crossover from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind, and then you begin to remember something that happened. In the subconscious mind, there is no time. In the subconscious mind, and listen, I'm calling it the subconscious mind, but that is a misnomer. That is a misnomer. You could call it group consciousness, you could call it universal consciousness, you could call it timeless consciousness, you could call it a lot of things. You could call it simply all there is. Whatever you choose to call it, that is always going on at all times. It would be impossible for you to become manifest as a human being and actually have enough consciousness and awareness to be in a position to even watch what you're watching right now. Whenever you're watching it, all of your past, all of your subconscious awareness brought you to that moment. It would be impossible for that to be an accident. Why would I tell you all that? Because you're concerned with happiness. You're concerned with creating a state of ongoing happiness, well-being, fulfillment. In having that focus, we spend so much of our life pursuing things that we think will make us happy. There is no thing that can make you happy. And another way of saying is nothing makes you happy. I just put the emphasis on a different syllable, but no thing will make you happy. Said another way is nothing will make you happy. Nothing, on the other hand, like no thing, in the absence of things and the pursuit of things, in other words, in the present moment, happiness is infinitely available. It's always been there. Well-being has always been there. Prosperity has always been there. Brilliant ideas have always been there. Connection with other human beings and what is meaningful to them, that's always been there. It's always available, always has been, always will be, and is independent of you and your being here. It is independent of you, your personality. It is always going on. It is always flowing. And, there's a Buddhist saying, you can't step in the same river twice, because that water is always flowing. It's always going past. So it's a different river every single second. You can't hold consciousness still. In fact, if you hold still, you will find everything that you've ever been looking for. The whole point of this talk is the pursuit of happiness will prevent you from actually being happy. All of the things that will have you experience happiness have always been there. They've always been present and always available. However, it takes a moment of what what you and I might call nothing, no thing, otherwise known as meditation, stillness, to take a moment to realize that. Yesterday I went out to the mountains and I sat and watched a sunset, and I was just overwhelmed with a moment of happiness just for being there. I just sat down on the ground and enjoyed the grass and the dirt and the trees and the wind. And the more I noticed what was there and allowed the nothingness to be there, the more I became even more aware of the fullness. I became aware of how the shadows were falling on the earth. All of those things were very joyful. They were very blissful. I wanted to share them with you. So I promised myself that today I would do my best to give you access to that kind of happiness, because it's available for you at any moment, any time, at all times, in all circumstances. You could stop and be happy. That's the end of my show. Thanks for watching. Go out, do nothing, and be happy, and have your concern be with participating for others for the sake of their well-being and happiness, and watch your life expand beyond your wildest dreams. Thanks for watching. This is Gregory Morgan. You've been watching Love Talk.
قدم به قدم، از آشنایی تا عشقی ماندگار، توسط خانم دکتر آزیتا سایان. هر کجای رابطه که هستی، پیش از شروع، ابتدای راه، قبل از ازدواج و یا مزدوج و بچه دار، با شرکت در این سمینار خارق‌العاده عشقی ماندگار در زندگی خود خلق کنید.
اگه واقعاً بخواید که فکر بکنید که من مرحله به مرحله چجوری با یک کسی آشنا بشم و چجوری رابطه رو تشکیل بدم که تبدیل بشه به یه عشقی که ماندگار باشه توی زندگی من، حتما بهتون توصیه میکنم اونایتون که واقعا براتون مهمه یاد بگیرید این مراحل آشنایی تا نگه داشتن یه رابطه. حالا همه میگن خب من نمیخوام ازدواج کنم، منم اصراری ندارم کسی نمیخواد ازدواج کنه، نکنیم، ولی لااقل یاد بگیریم یه رابطه سالم رو بتونیم نگهش داریم.
دوشنبه 25 نوامبر در هتل دابل تری بای هیلتون سانتا مونیکا. بلیط‌های خود را همین الان از وبسایت و یا اپلیکیشن امبریس گروت تهیه کنید و یا با شماره 310 460 2600 تماس بگیرید. در کارگاه‌های آموزشی بانوان به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان، خود واقعیتان و همچنین مردان را بشناسید و با استفاده از قدرت زنانه خود روابطی سالم و عاشقانه بسازید. ایروان ارمنستان 31 اکتبر تا 2 نوامبر، تورنتو 15 تا 17 نوامبر و همبورگ 28 فوریه تا اول مارچ. 310 460 2600 embracegrowth.com. یک مرد منحصر به فرد، مسلط، متمرکز، قابل اعتماد و رضایتمند باشید. کارگاه شرافت، عزت کلام و مهارت به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان. ایروان ارمنستان 15 تا 17 آگوست، تورنتو 20 تا 22 سپتامبر، همبورگ 18 تا 20 اکتبر و لس آنجلس 13 تا 15 مارچ. برای اطلاعات بیشتر با شماره 310 460 2600 تماس بگیرید. اپلیکیشن امبریس گروت. با ساختن اکانت شخصی شما می توانید وارد پروفایل خود شده و تنظیمات آن را تغییر دهید. به تمامی رویدادها و محصولات دسترسی داشته باشید. با چند کلیک برای سمینارها و کارگاه‌ها ثبت نام کنید و یا وقت مشاوره خود را رزرو نمایید. اپلیکیشن امبریس گروت را امروز از اپ استور دانلود کنید و به خانواده جهانی امبریس گروت بپیوندید.
Embrace Growth has a new home online where you can easily register for workshops and events, order from the online store, and be part of the worldwide community of Embrace Growth graduates. You'll be able to see Dr. Rosita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan in your favorite seminars. Visit us today at embracegrowth.com.
قدم به قدم، از آشنایی تا عشقی ماندگار، توسط خانم دکتر آزیتا سایان. هر کجای رابطه که هستی، پیش از شروع، ابتدای راه، قبل از ازدواج و یا مزدوج و بچه دار، با شرکت در این سمینار خارق‌العاده عشقی ماندگار در زندگی خود خلق کنید.
اگه واقعاً بخواید که فکر بکنید که من مرحله به مرحله چجوری با یه کسی آشنا بشم و چجوری رابطه رو تشکیل بدم که تبدیل بشه به یه عشقی که ماندگار باشه توی زندگی من، حتما بهتون توصیه میکنم اوناییتون که واقعا براتون مهمه یاد بگیرید این مراحل آشنایی تا نگه داشتن یه رابطه. حالا همه میگن خب من نمیخوام ازدواج کنم، منم اصراری ندارم کسی نمیخواد ازدواج کنه نکنیم، ولی لااقل یاد بگیریم یه رابطه سالم رو بتونیم نگهش داریم.
دوشنبه 25 نوامبر در هتل دابل تری بای هیلتون سانتا مونیکا. بلیط‌های خود را همین الان از وبسایت و یا اپلیکیشن امبریس گروت تهیه کنید و یا با شماره 310 460 2600 تماس بگیرید.